Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. It's that time of the week again. It's Premier League predictions time. Another round of exciting and intriguing Premier League encounters are almost upon us for this weekend. And even though the Premier League title may have already been decided, the relegation battle may be all over and done with this season, there is still 4 games to go of this current campaign, and there is still a race for European football of some description that is left to be determined. So we're still going to be marching forward. We're still going to be talking, analysing and predicting the games that are coming up this weekend, even though there are still 4 games left and only very little of the season left to really play for. We're going to be doing all of that and much more, of course, but before we go any further and discussing all of that and predicting, or trying to predict the outcomes of games, should I say, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. Get involved in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, that I'm sure will make for great and interesting reading down below. So please do use and abuse that comment section, people, and talk to me. Get involved with your predictions. And without further ado, we're going to get on to the prediction side of things ourselves. And we're going to start with Friday night's game. Tonight, at the time of recording, get your fantasy teams in order, people. There is a Friday night game this week, and it comes at you live from the Etihad, where Manchester City will be taking on Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, of course, Wolves in this scenario, safe and sound, no jeopardy whatsoever. The likelihood is that they'll be on the beach. Manchester City, of course, looking to take a stranglehold of the top 4 position. Now, they are currently, top 5 position, should I say. They are currently 1 point above both Chelsea and Forest, who are below them. Forest, of course, occupying that 6th spot. So they really do need a big 3 points here. And the big 3 points will obviously see them leapfrog Newcastle in 3rd. Potentially temporarily until Newcastle play on Sunday, of course. So it could be a massive 3 points for Pep Guardiola's side. And it's a big 3 points that I see them obtaining. Because I think with Wolves being on the beach, Wolves maybe not having anything to play for. They're just playing for points and maybe positions at this point. I feel like with the recent form of Manchester City, they've been scoring quite a few goals in recent games. They're going to get the win. That should see them take a big stranglehold of the top 5 spots going forward into the final few games of the season. Pep Guardiola decided to win 3-1 is what I am going for here. We're going to be moving on next to Villa Park for Saturday's lunchtime kickoff, where Aston Villa will take on Fulham. And I've gone 2-1 to Aston Villa. Now, of course, the incentive should be with Aston Villa. Again, not at the realms of possibility for them to obtain Champions League football for next season. They are 3 points off the top 6. A win here will see them stay 7th. However, they will go level on points with Nottingham Forest and Chelsea, but will be below them on goal difference. Fulham could close the gap on Villa to 3 points with a win here. It's not like there is a possibility for them to obtain some form of European football as well for next season. So there is actually a big incentive here for both of these sides to go for the win. It could actually be a very interesting game. But I think with the recent form of Aston Villa, I just give them the edge in this game, especially with the extra incentive as well of more Champions League football for the next campaign. I feel like Unai Emery's side will have enough about them, especially in the final third, to get the job done in this one. But that doesn't mean that Marco Silva's side will be any sort of pushover. I know they have had a couple of mediocre results in recent weeks. It's still a tough side to play against in Fulham. So I'm very much looking forward to this one, actually. Should be one of the more interesting games of this weekend, especially with a lot riding on the line for both teams. But I'm going with Villa to win. I'm going to say that Unai Emery's side get the 3 points. That will put them level on points for at least the time being with the likes of Chelsea and Forest. Next up, a game that means nothing. With all due respect, Everton take on Ipswich at Goodison Park. Everton safe and sound, no jeopardy, but also no real hope of pushing into any sort of higher position in the form of obtaining or gaining any sort of European football. And Ipswich, whose fate was confirmed last weekend, Ipswich are down. They're going to be yo-yoing back to the Championship. I've gone 2-1 Everton. Both teams playing for pride. Everton playing for points. yeah, I've gone with Everton to win. It's going to be interesting to see how teams approach these kind of games. Are they going to be on the beach? Is there going to be a lot of rotation? Are we going to see some youngsters maybe get some senior first team minutes? It's going to be interesting to see how both of these teams handle this one and how the fans kind of react to this one as well. Like I say, no jeopardy, no success from winning, well, major success from winning anyway. But I have gone with Everton to get the win in this one. Leicester versus Southampton. I mean, talk about a game that's completely dead. This one is definitely that. Two teams that are completely and utterly relegated for this season. Both teams just looking to give these fans a little something to leave the Premier League season with before they go back down to the Championship. I've gone 2-2. I just thought maybe there'll be goals galore in this one. Maybe both teams will throw caution to the wind. Maybe Southampton will exceed the points tally of Derby County's worst record in a Premier League season ever by getting a point here. Either side could go on and win it. Either side could really go on and throw caution to the wind. I'm just hoping for goals in this one to at least try to make this one a little bit more entertaining than what it currently is. So 2-2, but again, don't have my hopes for maybe even that high scoring of a game or that entertaining of a game, in all honesty, with all due respect to both clubs, of course. Next, we move on to Saturday night's game, and we've got action from the Emirates Stadium where Arsenal will be taking on Bournemouth, and I've gone 1-1 for this one. Now, of course, for Arsenal, the Premier League title race is over, of course. I mean, it was over since the beginning of the year, in all due respect, but it is now mathematically confirmed that it is over for them. They obviously switch their attention to the Champions League, put all their eggs in the Champions League basket. They should obtain a top 5 finish regardless of what happens in the final 4 or 5 games of this season. So really, this game could see a lot of rotation and a lot of maybe oversight from Arsenal, I guess is the term, in which maybe they are looking more at the PSG game on Wednesday night rather than this one, with all due respect to Bournemouth. Now, that could obviously play into Bournemouth's hands. Maybe they're not facing an Arsenal side that are willing to go that extra mile to win this game. Maybe they're facing an Arsenal side that are going to have a lot of rotation to keep their best players fresh for that game on Wednesday against PSG in the Champions League semi-final. So that could work in Bournemouth's favour. I'd actually be leaning more towards Bournemouth winning this one, in all honesty, but I'm going to call it down the middle. I still think Arsenal's rotation may see them have enough about them to get something from this game. So I'm going 1-1. I'm going to say that the points will be shared in this one. But again, with not a lot riding on this game for either side. I mean, Bournemouth, yes, could potentially obtain some form of European football. A win here could have them leap up the table to 8th. Depending on other results, of course. There's still chance of a European football place being given to that 8th place team that finishes, depending on how things go, of course. So it is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how things take place in terms of the race for European football. Bournemouth are in it. They probably have more of the incentive, and Arsenal probably have more than one eye on the Champions League game coming up for them this week, but it's going to be interesting to see how this game pans out. Next up, moving on to Sunday's games, and first up we've got Brentford taking on Manchester United, and I've gone 2-1 to Brentford. Now again, similarly to Arsenal, Man United have other commitments in the form of Europa League, and they actually did smash Atletico Bilbao on Thursday night. They're taking with them a healthy lead back with them to Manchester. I just think that they, again, will not be as overly assertive or exert themselves overly in any sort of way in this game. I think that they are more than happy to rotate. I think they are more than happy to not play at full capacity. And regardless of the result, it doesn't necessarily matter because they're not going to be obtaining any form of European football this season, but they're also not going to be going down either, so it's a bit of a dead game for them. It might be nice just to get a few minutes in the legs of some of the fringe players and maybe some of the players that are returning from fitness, the likes of your Amad Diallo's, for example, who will get probably another 20-minute, 30-minute cameo, just to maybe build up his fitness for maybe what is to come later on in the season, which could be a Europa League final, of course, if they manage to hold their nerve at Old Trafford against Bilbao in a second leg, which is likely to happen, of course. So it's going to be an interesting game, this one. Again, Brentford not really playing for much either. But they could, if memory serves me correctly, after a big win against Forest on Thursday night, they could sneak into the top half of the table for them, which could be obviously big for Thomas Frank's side. Got under the radar a little bit, Bournemouth, this season. Got about their business very well, though. But yeah, I think that they probably will be fancying their chances against the Man United side, who again may not have their full, entire focus on this particular game, but more so on the European action to come later on next week. I've gone 2-1 Bournemouth. I think Brentford. I think Brentford, the Bees, will get the 3 points in this one. Next up, an interesting game, this one. This one is going to probably go on a little bit under the radar again, but I'm actually anticipating a very interesting game here. We are at the Seaside, at the Amex Stadium, for Brighton welcoming Newcastle. And I've gone 3-2 Newcastle. Now, this is mainly because I'm hoping for goals. I'm hoping for entertainment. I'm hoping for some form of excitement this week that we may not be getting in the Premier League for the next few weeks. But you know what? This has all the makings of a great game. Two teams that like to get the ball down, play some lovely football. Two teams that are very good in their own right, got some very good individuals, a very good unit overall as well. And obviously a Newcastle side that are wanting to maintain their position of third in the Premier League table for Champions League football for next season. Against a Brighton side who again are 9th, 6 points away from 7th, 9 points away from 6th, but 8th place could hold some form of European football this season depending on how things work out. I'm not even necessarily sure if 8th actually will now that I've thought about it, but I think it does depend on what happens elsewhere. I think that is the case. So, for example, if Chelsea drop out, for example, but win the Europa Conference League, which again they are likely to do, things could obviously transpire there in which 8th place may get some form of European football. So it's not over till it's over, especially for these kinds of teams. But it's going to be a very interesting battle nonetheless. I'm going for a goals galore type of game. I think Newcastle's firepower will just about give them the edge in this one, and I think they'll maintain their stranglehold on the top 5. Moving on to a London derby. West Ham taking on Tottenham, and I've gone 2-1 to West Ham. Once again, Tottenham will have one eye on their trip to Norway next week, where they'll take on Bodo Glimt in the second leg of the Europa League semi-final. They take with them a interesting 3-1 lead, and I say interesting because you can never take anything that has got Spurs in the equation for granted. West Ham not exactly had the best of times under Graham Potter, but I think maybe they may fancy their chances of getting something from this game, building something towards giving them hope for next season. I think Tottenham will give them an incentive to go out there and take the win. May not be completely perfect for them, may not be the best for them. I can probably likely see a draw in all honesty, but West Ham I feel will take something from this game. I'm going 2-1 West Ham just simply for the reason I think Spurs will have more of a focus on their Europa League clash next week. Monday night we'll see Crystal Palace host Nottingham Forest at Selhurst Park, and I've gone with a 1-1 draw. Now, this one's going to be very interesting because obviously Forest are still not out the equation for the top 5. They currently fall in 6th. They suffered a pretty poor defeat at the hands of Brentford on Thursday night. But it's not their own possibility for them to redeem themselves and obviously get back in that top 5 race. They've got that to play for. I know that things have fallen off a little bit for Forest in recent weeks. I think it's down to their lack of squad depth in all honesty. But I think that obviously this could be a decent game for them to get back to winning ways with. Because for Crystal Palace, there's no jeopardy, of course. They're not pushing for European football. A win for Palace here will see them maintain their position in 12th. They're staying in 12th regardless of what happens this weekend. But maybe they have one eye on the FA Cup final. And because there's no jeopardy, because there's no, obviously, incentive to go on and push yourselves further, maybe they again don't play at full capacity. Maybe again they're looking at just building up some momentum in the legs so they don't like drop off completely. Maybe they're just looking at a bit more rotation. Maybe they're looking at some of their key players to maybe play for a little bit to keep the legs going, and that then we'll sub them on later on in the game. And that could be Forest's incentive to go on and get the victory here that they so desperately need. For Palace, it's just about building towards that FA Cup final, a monumental and massive game for them. For Forest, it's purely about just trying to get back into the top 5, which they could potentially do with a win this weekend. I'm going 1-1 though, but if I was leaning towards more of a winner, I would be leaning more towards Forest. But again, I just think the squad depth is maybe just coming back to bite them a little bit as the seasons wore on. And finally, in what I believe to be the biggest game of this round of fixtures, the main event of this Premier League weekend, we are live from Stamford Bridge on Sunday night for Chelsea taking on Liverpool, the Premier League champions in action for the first time since securing the Premier League title at home last weekend in that convincing and smooth sailing victory against Spurs. And I've gone 2-2. And the reason I've gone 2-2 is because obviously there's more incentive for Chelsea than there is for Liverpool right now. Liverpool are just playing out the rest of the season in party mode. They're going to love the fact that Chelsea, of all teams, are going to be the first team to give them a guard of honour this season. They're going to be loving the fact that they've won the Premier League and they can actually sit back for the first time in a long time this season, relax, not play at full capacity, maybe invite some of the fringe players to actually get more minutes to maybe drive them towards getting a Premier League medal at the end of the campaign. Maybe there's going to be some youngsters that may come through. For Mo Salah, he's going to obviously want to look at breaking the amount of goal records and obviously maintaining his position at the top of the race for the Golden Boot. And you know, as well as that, of course, there's just enjoying the fruits of the labour of what this season has produced for Liverpool, enjoying the moment of becoming Premier League champions, and obviously building up to the game at the end of the season against Crystal Palace, where we're eventually going to lift that trophy. There is a bit of a rivalry here, Liverpool-Chelsea. We know that there is a bit of a rivalry here, so maybe they will take this a little bit more seriously than it would just a normal dead rubber game. And of course, I think there is a bit of a trend that if a team does win the title before the last game of the season, they tend to go on and lose their next game. I remember when we won it back in 2020, we actually got slaughtered by Manchester City the game after we won the title. So there may be a bit of that. There may be a bit of a hangover for a lot of those players that maybe have been partying all week and enjoying the success of the Premier League title. As for Chelsea, again, they're in a top 5 race. They will want to win this game to give them a stronger chance of obviously maintaining their position in that top 5 race. But it's not going to be completely easy, even though they are probably hoping that Liverpool are on the beach and are not taking this game as seriously. I think for Liverpool, it's about maybe trying to build for next season. Maybe some of those fringe players, as I mentioned before, trying to play their way into Arne Slot's plans, giving more minutes in the legs, a bit of rotation. It's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool combat this one and obviously combat the rest of the season as maybe preparations for next season begin right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do with that. As for Chelsea, they're looking at the likes of Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson to kind of get them over the finish line here. It's not exactly been the best of seasons for Cole Palmer, but if he is to spring into life, this would be the time to do it. Nicholas Jackson was back amongst the goals last week. They'll be hoping that he can continue that as they push towards Champions League football, which they so desperately need. Again, the incentive is with Chelsea, so maybe if there was to be a winner in this one, in my prediction, I'd have to go with maybe the Blues, but I think that Liverpool will just play the rest of the season out, enjoy it, rotate, and probably will get something out of it with the pressure not being on, with it being quite comfortably for them now just about obtaining points rather than obtaining positions and maintaining their position at the top of the table. Yeah, it could be an incentive for them just to go out there and play their natural game. I'm going 2-2 though. I think that the points will be shared, and it will obviously not completely help Chelsea, but a point gained is still more than losing the game, I guess. So we shall see. And there you have it. Those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the Premier League games that are coming up this weekend? Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, your predictions down below in the comment section. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video / Premier League predictions video. I will see and speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all again very, very soon.